As you can see there, we are going to do some talking on marriage. And many of you, Angela and I, we've been here now for about just over 5 years. And many of you know, met us from a distance or know a bit about us. But many of you guys, and many people, most people don't really know our story, and it's a story of grace. It's a story of forgiveness, and I wanted to spend some time to open this series up on marriage, which we're going to be looking at. We're going to be going over practical things within marriage, but primarily looking at marriage. And this is relevant for if you're single as well. It's not like you need to tune out, but this is, we're going to look at the gospel in relationships. And we're going to be dealing in the context of marriage for a lot of it, because how many know being married is super easy? Yes. Wait. She forced me to say that. Just kidding. But marriage is not easy. And I remember years ago when I was sharing with, you guys know them, Todd and Julie Powers. I met this girl, and I was telling them about them, and I want to marry her, and blah, 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 blah. And they said, Josh, how many business books have you read? And I'm like, I don't know, like 50 business books or something. How many marriage books have you read? 0. Oh, so you're about to make the most crazy decision of your entire life without any kind of preparation. And we suffered. And it's not that just having more wisdom and preparation is going to fix everything, because there's a lot you learn and there's a lot God wants to do within the marriage. But it just shows that we spend all these years in school to educate you on how to make money and be successful in the world, and nobody teaches you about what the most important thing is how to relate to other people. I mean, that's just, we value, our values are seen in education. What are we teaching kids? What are we teaching people? And there's no classes on how to live with someone, you know. But anyways, to start this off, I wanted to invite Angela up to share with you a little bit about our story, a brief overview, so that you can see where we're coming from in our experiences, and ultimately, hopefully, give you and provide you with hope for your marriage. And whether you're married, or you've been married, or you want to be married, or you're single, I pray that this would provide gospel, grace, hope for your life. So if you could, please welcome Angela as she makes her way up here.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yes.
If I sound out of breath, it's because I just ran a 5K this morning before I got here, so don't panic. Just kidding. I'm kidding. So Pastor Josh asked me to come and speak a little bit today, and I told him, just give me 30 seconds, I'll be fine. So I have 2 things for you, okay? First thing is, if at first you don't succeed, just do it the way your wife told you to, okay? Number 1. Number 2, your wife will not start an argument with you if you're cleaning. So just always be cleaning. I'm done. That's it.
Thank you.
So Pastor Josh and I, we have been married 12 years. We are going on 13. Fun fact about us, we met on June 8th, 2008. And every June 8th is National Best Friends Day. Coincidence? Definitely not. And so this will be 15 years of friendship for us. And we always enjoy celebrating that, just because of, like he said, our story of how we met. And so that day is just very special to us. So I was 17 when I met Josh. He was 21.
I didn't know she was 17 at the time. Okay. Her mom was like, who the heck is this 21-year-old coming by my 17-year-old house? You know what I'm saying? No, I didn't know.
That was our first challenge.
Yeah. Marty.
Right there. My mom. Yeah. This isn't the thing. Oh, okay. But so we have grown together, which is really special, because we had each other early on in life, which is pretty cool. But also it was very difficult in the sense that we were both very selfish, And I don't think we even realized it at that time. We owned our own business. We got married, started getting into the groove of our life together. We did church together. We served in the junior high ministry as the leaders, amongst other things. We were there every Sunday, every Wednesday, and everything in between. But it was our second year that things completely changed for us. Josh was chasing his dream of becoming a millionaire by the age of 30.
Failed.
Like he said, he had more business books and finance books than he did on marriage. We left our church for some very hard reasons. We were running a business that had absolutely nothing to show for it because we were broke. We were late on our rent. I remember going to the gas station and trying to get gas, and my card was declined. And so I called Josh. I'm like, hey, was this an accident or what happened? It wasn't. So I went home and I cried, and that was that. And being young and married, we didn't have any young married couples who were strong in the Lord. So we didn't really have much of a support group with that. So all this hard work, no money, no time with my husband, not pursuing a relationship with Jesus, just trying to take things into our own hands and make things happen for ourselves. I was very selfish, and I tried to fill that void, and I quickly found myself in a relationship with another man. I made excuses for myself to justify that I was totally okay in doing this. I was, just a quick text or, hang out with a friend until things moved further and further. And it got to the point where I knew that I was doing something wrong and I was not honoring my marriage. I never imagined that I would be a person who would cheat on my husband. I was a rule follower. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get sent to the principal's office ever. I never got a detention in my life, but I knew what I was doing was wrong. And every night I would go to bed and I would cry and I would ask God to please help me out of this. Just get me out of this cycle. I tried to do it on my own. I tried to, break things off, and without Josh knowing, that would be great. Selfish. You see, the selfishness, it kept us as if we were living two separate lives. And we allowed our wants, our desires, and just our pride to control us. We were not on the same page, and he and I were trying to get for ourselves what only God could give. So one day, Josh tells me he has an interview for a job dealing with trading and stocks, basically his dream job in Chicago. So he goes to Chicago, and he does the interview, and he gets the job. Well, these people didn't know that we live in California, so they gave him a week to get out there. So we have 1 week, get him out there, I stay behind, I get things packed and organized and, taken care of. All at the same time, our mentors, Todd and Julie Powers, whom you guys have all just recently met, they are from Empower International, and they are missionaries from Thailand. They came to us and they said, hey, we are starting a church exactly where you are going. Would you come and help us start that? And so we're like, great, let's do it. So Josh stays with Todd and Julie so that he could get us a place before I come and move out there with him. And I remember Josh calling me and saying, hey, Todd and Julie so graciously just bought you a plane ticket to join me because they feel like it's just too long away from each other. God thing? Absolutely. So I fly out 3 weeks later, and within weeks, my prayer was answered. The truth came out about this other guy, and it was messy. It was hard. It was sad. It was hurtful. But I will never forget the freedom that I felt in that day, like a weight was just lifted off of my shoulders. I could breathe again. And at the same time, I was so scared that I had just lost everything. So now we had a decision to make. We could go our separate ways. He could stay and start his dream job, and I could go back home. Or we could fight, just the two of us, for what we had believed all along, that God has brought us together. I'll never forget my brother-in-law, Zach. He texted me, and he says to me, "If it's one thing I know, it's that you and Josh are meant to be together. So just give him some time." You see, we prayed about each other from the very beginning. And this was a moment that would redefine our future forever. It was a moment that would knock and demolish everything that we knew about marriage, everything we thought we knew about forgiveness, and everything we had yet to understand about grace. We were able to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture wasn't just a picture-perfect marriage or the perfect children. The bigger picture is for such a time as this, that he could take anything and with real repentance make it even more beautiful than ever before, because we had a future. You have a future. So we got to rebuild our marriage, just the two of us, the foundation now being forgiveness and grace, Jesus completely at the center, that no amount of money, no job, and no person could ever fulfill, and reminding ourselves of why we were brought together. And it took some time to build trust, to recover, to let it all go, to forgive, and even allow myself to be forgiven. But we saw God's hand through it all, leading us away from everything and everyone here. God saving me from getting too intimate in that relationship and giving me freedom again, refocusing Josh's heart and breaking the dream that he thought he had for himself, and bringing him into the ministry where that church we helped with, he was ordained there, and developing him into the lead pastor that he is today. And so to this day, when Pastor Josh talks about our marital issues, the gentleman that he is, one, he never brings up what I did. So unless I'm standing there and I decide to speak up, he never brings up what I did. Number two, he takes full responsibility for everything that happened between us. And number three, he never, ever, ever throws my past in my face to shame me for it. And that, my friends, is true grace, and I am so thankful for it.
I love you. God is really good. And it may, things like that aren't difficult to talk about for us. There isn't pain there. There isn't difficulty there. God actually heals. And when he did, in fact, if I could be so bold, and I know people that are watching and listening, some of the things I say, you're going to be like, no, you're not going to believe me, but that's fine. You go ahead and enjoy your crappy marriage. I got a good one. So, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just kidding. That's just me, if you don't know me. But I'm thankful for what happened. We shout, I believe God turns all things for good. Well, he did. And I'm actually thankful for the evil that the enemy meant to separate us, to destroy us, and everything. I'm so thankful for what God did in rescuing us with his saving grace. And I want you to see, no matter where you are in your marriage, or if you're single and you want to be married, or whatever place or position of life, there is hope because of the grace of God. Period. So, in this series, that's a little bit of our history, and I'm going to be sharing with you from a lot of our own experiences, but not just our own experiences, from Scripture and many wise people that have dealt with marriage over the years. And so if you're ever interested in different materials, I'm more than happy to share with you the different materials that we read together, because we understand that our marriage is not safe just because it's good. And we'll talk about that. And so we are constantly investing in our marriage and constantly doing that. And many of the ways to do that is to have a third party, aka Jesus, and books that can point out our idiocy, and that we can be repentful and honest about ourselves, and that God can do a work in our marriage, and we would grow and thrive and flourish and do what God ultimately wants accomplished from our marriage. So for today, what I really want to do is just briefly give an overview. Obviously, there's so much content when it comes to marriage. We could talk about all the wisdom and principles and different things, but I want you to understand that it's not principles that save your marriage or just wisdom that saves your marriage. It's a person, and his name is Jesus. It's Jesus who rescued our marriage. It wasn't that all of a sudden I had all these principles dropped in my head. We were just as dumb in the process of forgiveness and growth as we were before it, but Jesus rescued us. It's his grace that rescues. And so I wanted to provide a glimpse and paint a picture for you of what the gospel is played out in marriage and in single life. If you're a single person not married, it is just as relevant for you, because you are called to love your brothers and sisters in Christ. It is the same principles, the same types of thing, the same gospel is played out in your life as a single, which is just as dignified as being married. If you're single, you're not waiting for your life to start until you get married. Your life has begun. You're married to Jesus. You're serving him. You're in union with him. Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, lived a single life without children. Jesus, our Messiah, was single without children. You are not less than because you're not married. Let me say that. The gospel is revolutionary in that regard. You are just as whole as a married person is. But I wanted to really bring out the gospel in the context of in marriage and paint a picture of what that looks like. Now, in order for us to do that, we have to look at 3 presuppositions of where our marriage is found in. And number 1, our marriage exists in a broken world in the in-between. Our world that we find our marriage in is broken. It is filled with sin, chaos, evil, still lives and exists within this world. And we find ourselves in the in-between. What does that mean? The in-between, it's in between the cross of Jesus Christ, where you were forgiven, and the resurrection, where you're perfected. So what does that mean? It means that you are a sinner married to a sinner. Great news. I think marriage is set up to be quite good. You're a sinner, a flawed person who isn't perfected, living in a broken world, married to another sinner who's flawed, living in a broken world. That, ladies and gentlemen, is where you find yourself in marriage. But the third and most important point and presupposition we have is that God is faithful, powerful, and willing. He is more zealous for your healthy marriage than you would ever be. He has provided a lifetime warranty of grace for your marriage. There is no issue, no problem, no circumstance you can find yourself in that his grace cannot invade and change for good. It is a lifetime warranty of provision for every single day of your life. There is nothing that's too far. May our relationship be an example, as what it is of an example of something that was broken, but God's grace invaded and turned it for good. So we have to ask ourselves, and in the premarital counseling I do sometimes with people that are interested in hearing about things, but I really think premarital counseling doesn't do a whole lot, because most of the people that are getting married, they're like so in love, and they think they're so in love, they don't really, that's nice, but we're different. We don't need those principles. We're just, oh my gosh, did you see how hot he is? Oh my gosh. What we really need is post-marital counseling. okay? It's like week 1, wait a minute, her breath stinks. That's really what we need. But one of the things I ask is, why are you getting married? What is the purpose of marriage? What is God's design for marriage? What is the purpose of marriage? And based on the secular world we live in and the culture we live in, and within most people I talk to, the main purpose and goal of life and relationships is happiness. I mean, you watch all the movies and the chick flicks and stuff, the love stories. It's all about, man, if I could just get married, I'll finally be happy. And I know women that have attached their identity not to Jesus but to their spouse, and that is a burden and a weight that is way too heavy for the spouse to carry. They will crumble under the weight of being your Messiah. We cannot find our identity or seek that. The design of marriage is simply just to be happy. Because if you've ever been married, you realize that you're not always just happy. Now, there's nothing wrong with the pursuit of being happy. There's nothing morally wrong with seeing a goal of marriage of being happy. It's not that it's wrong morally or something, but it's wrong in the sense that it is way too small. God's plan and design for marriage is so much bigger and deeper and eternal that He is working in your marriage than just to make you happy. We, especially in the West, have idolized happiness. I see it every day. As a pastor, I'm always talking to different people in different areas of life, people in the streets. Do you know how many of them ended up in the streets? A pursuit of happiness. I can have drugs without responsibility. I can sleep with this person without any commitment. I can do this. In this world, the cultural idols of today, sex is an idol, power is an idol, money is an idol. Why? Because we think it'll bring us what? Happiness. God is working on something much bigger than just simply to make you happy. God is working through your spouse and daily circumstances to do one major thing. And if you're single, in your relationships with the body of Christ. That's why you need to get in a small group. You have relationships. God has purpose and designed one major thing, and that is to change you and make you holy. We're chasing happiness. God is after holiness. God has designed marriage not to be an end of itself. We all know that marriage is not eternal. Marriage is rather a means to an end. The end being His end, the end being holiness, transformation into the image of Christ. Everything God is doing right now as you are sitting here. There's that song, Waymaker. Even when I don't see it, He's working. And well, okay, what's He working on? Well, He's working on getting me a new job. Well, He's working on getting me a new house. He's working on doing it. It's like, okay, your dreams are way too small. You think He's working on those things as if they matter. God judges value based on how long it lasts. He is working on something far more important and deeper than just that you can have some temporary happiness. That's involved and that'll come, but He is working on changing you into the glorious image of His perfect Son. Holiness, transformation. We all know this verse in Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Now, what is the good He's working on, Paul? For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be happy. To be so full of joy and to have all their needs met and never have problems and just be perfect. No. What is God working on? What is He changing and using what is evil in your life? The bad things, the good things. He is working right now in every circumstance and situation and your spouse. He is working on one thing, And that is to conform you to the image of his Son. This is our reward. This is the great destiny every one of you have. There is nothing more important, nothing bigger, nothing more honorable than God is saying, your destiny is to be a perfect imager of my glory. But we find ourselves in the in-between. And so to do this, to accomplish this, he places you in a relationship with another flawed person right in the middle of a broken world with difficult circumstances meant to bring you to the end of yourself so that you can finally begin to place your hope in his grace and place your identity, meaning, purpose, and well-being in him to transform you into his image. So what's the implication of this? I jumped too soon. The implication of this is the biggest problem in your marriage. Now, maybe you're in here and you have a good marriage. That's great. But one of the things we're going to look at is there's no such thing as a safe marriage. In fact, sometimes the biggest dangers to your marriage are that you think it's a good marriage. Why? It's the same with God's warnings in Scripture about prosperity that he brings us. Yes, God wants you to prosper. Yes, God wants you blessed. But along with the blessing comes giant warning signs. Because this is what happens with humans. You get blessed and you forget him. And when our marriage, and we're convinced our marriage is good, what we can begin to do is start to coast. And now I'm not investing as much in my marriage as I used to be because it's good. And see, ladies and gentlemen, marriage is not built on 4 or 5 big moments in life. Marriage is built in the 10,000 decisions and moments that you make every single day. You're either doing one of two things. You are investing in your marriage or not. And if I have a good marriage and I'm convinced my marriage is good and I begin to coast, I begin to stop being intentional and investing in Angela, and I may not see the result for a year. I may not see the result for 5 years. It might be 20 years later that once I had a good marriage, but now the only harvest I have left are all the weeds I sowed when my marriage was good because I was coasting instead of investing. There is no such thing as a safe marriage. And we have to live that way. Continual sowing, investing in our marriage, because you will reap what you sow. The same goes with your relationships. Your life right now is a harvest of seeds you sowed a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago with your relationships. No marriage is safe. The biggest problem in your marriage is not the devil. The biggest problem in your marriage is not the sex life. The biggest problem in your marriage is not the economy or finances or the lack of communication. The biggest problem in your marriage is you. The biggest obstacle and danger to your marriage and your relationships is you. Now, I heard it. No, you haven't met my spouse. They're the problem. You see, sin is at its very essence and heart is selfish. Sin is selfishness. And because we still sin, we still have these selfish tendencies. We are still very selfish people. And it is selfish people that point the finger and blame. If you aren't convinced you are the biggest problem in your marriage, ladies and gentlemen, you just proved to me that you, indeed, are the biggest problem in your marriage. I can hear a pin drop right now. I tell you, it's quite uncomfortable up here. Remember Adam and Eve in the garden after they sinned? Did Adam take full responsibility? Oh. Did Eve take full responsibility? Adam's blaming Eve. Eve's blaming the serpent. They're trying to clothe themselves. It's a mess. Why? Sin makes you selfish and point the finger. The first thing God taught me after what happened with Angela and I remember I was walking my, rest in peace, my lovely chocolate lab outside, crying to God for help. And it was one word: forgiveness. I knew I had to forgive, and I knew what that meant. I wasn't an idiot. I had some kind of biblical literacy. I knew what that meant. Was to forgive would mean to treat her as if it didn't happen. Now, of course, trust was rebuilt, and we went through a process, but I would never throw that back in her face. Then that means I didn't forgive her. And who the heck am I to think I'm somehow less of a sinner than her? See, if I'm convinced that I am more righteous than my spouse, I won't let God do the one thing he wants to do in my marriage, which is change me. Because a righteous person doesn't see their need for change. The Pharisee prays, "Thank you, Father, God, that I am not like this person over here." And you are saying, "Thank you, God, that I am not like my spouse over here." They are such a sinner. And what does Jesus say? The Pharisee walks away unjustified, while the actual sinner that they think is more of a sinner walks away justified. If I think I'm more righteous than my spouse, I will stop God. I will stop from receiving his grace in my life to change me. All right, yes, Josh, maybe, okay, I sin, yes, I'm selfish, but I'm not as selfish as them. I'm not as much of a sinner as them. Well, now what you've done is something very bad. You've just crossed a very sacred boundary and stepped into the throne room of God acting as judge. You are not Yahweh, you are not king, you are not God. Who are you to judge another person based on who and who is sinner? You crossed a sacred boundary that you better get back over. Jesus said, why are you judging the speck in your brother's eye when there's a log in yours? And that's what we do. Sin makes us more aware of our spouse's sin than our own. You're keeping tabs, not of the good things your spouse does, but of all the bad things. But you are keeping tabs of all the good things you did. That's what sin does. We must be more aware of our own sins than our spouse's sins. In friendships, in relationships, if you're single or dating, you must learn to be more aware of your own faults and failures more than your spouse's or those that you're in a relationship with. Because when I see myself as a bigger sinner than Angela, I understand my need for the grace of God. And then I'm constantly, continually going to God for grace and for forgiveness. And when she does offend me in some way, when she does sin against me in some way, I'm not more righteous or holier than her. I'm able to offer her the very same grace and forgiveness I need. See, we can't move on, and your marriage will never grow beyond that. We must have a proper perspective of ourselves. That Josh, is the biggest problem in this marriage. God, I need you to change me. I need you to fix me. So we come to getting married and the problems that we encounter. And there's two main problems that are overcome when you get married that need to be overcome. Number one is that when we get married, we have unreal expectations and fake love. See, since Angela and I have been married, she has lived, if you can believe this, precious little girl, she has lived with 5 different men. They've just all been me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know why? She thought she knew who she was marrying. We have this idea that we think we know who it is we are marrying. And then we realize, and maybe it was said to you like it was said to me, or maybe you're the one who said it. This is not who I married. Am I the only one that has heard that said to? This is not who I'm, but yes, it is. It's exactly who you married. But you had this unreal expectation, see, because in the dating phase, you're never putting your bad foot forward. The husband's wooing the wife, man. The girl, he's trying to win her. This is a hunt, baby. We're designed to win and hunt, and I'm going to be paying attention to you, and I know what size shoe you wear, and I'm buying you things, and I'm taking you out, and I'm courting you, man. And then all of a sudden, I won. She said, I do. And then she wakes up, she's like, where'd that go? And she doesn't like the way I do things, and all of a sudden, now all of a sudden, this isn't who I married. Of course, it is who you married, but you had unreal expectations. You didn't know what to expect when you got married. So you thought you were marrying someone that was going to bring you happiness, instead of thought, I'm marrying someone so God can make me holy. That's a whole paradigm shift, a complete change in the way you view marriage, the complete change of DNA and structure of why you are married. It's not so you can be happy, it's so that you can be holy. I'm going to say that again. God has the two of you together, whether you think you're right for each other or wrong for each other. Guess what God says? It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is I'm using your spouse and every circumstance and situation you find yourself in, the difficult ones and the good ones, to make you like Jesus. Period. Guess what? Happiness, security, comfort, joy is all on the other end of holiness, because it's eternal happiness, it's eternal joy, it's eternal comfort. It's not this temporary fix that we get from the world. He puts you together to make you holy. Welcome to God's big dream for your life. So we have these false expectations when we get married because we think, man, we're so in love. We're perfect for each other. We're compatible. It's like we're soulmates. We were made for one another. And that leads to this idea of fake love. What do I mean by fake love? I know in our own life, and what we find is this thing where we confuse love with attraction. And really, attraction is motivated by self-love, because we're selfish sinners. You love yourself way more than you do. We should. And so, obviously, I'm going to be attracted. For instance, there's physical attraction. Oh my gosh, you see the body on that one? Her face is like an angel. And you're thinking, I get to have her beauty parading around me all the rest of my life. I know she's going to age, but at least I'm going to get like 20 good years. I'm going to get this gorgeous body, and I'm going to get to parade her in front of my friends and look at the catch on this one, you know? And you're thinking, my gosh, she's gorgeous. I'm going to see her naked, you know? Or the guy, he's tall and handsome, or in my case, short and scrawny, you know. But hey, she's attracted to that. Thank God that the world doesn't decide what's attractive, muscles and all that, you know. But there's that physical attraction. But watch this. You don't really love the person for who they are. You love the beauty they have and what it's going to do for you. Because what happens when all of a sudden she gets out of bed with her bad breath, her hair's a mess, there's no makeup on, and you're like, I did not marry this. See, you didn't love her. You didn't love him. You loved the way they were going to fit your life. You loved yourself. Or there's emotional connection. Oh, Josh, you got to meet this guy. Josh, you got to meet this girl. Man, we connect on an emotional level, man. We get deep, man. We like the same things. We read the same books. Like, yeah, she listens to Tchaikovsky too. And like, we got a lot of things going on. See, what the thing is, yeah, you're having an emotional attraction, but what you think what is love is not love. What it is you are so in love with yourself, you are seeing this emotional connection as a way that this person, when we get married, is just going to come and like a puzzle piece fit my life. So you're really excited about this person because you connect on such an emotional level, because this person to live together is not going to require you much change. That's why you're attracted, and you think it's love. It's not love. You love yourself, and this person you're attracted to fits your life quite well. There's all kinds of cultural attraction. We have the same kind of upbringing, so we connect there. There's unity there. We both like the same thing. We both love Christmas. Yay! It's like, then this is going to be great. We're going to have like the biggest house on the street with Christmas decorations and all these different things. And you come together and you think it's love, but it's not. It's that you're loving yourself with this person. And in our community, one of the dangers is he's a Christian. Can you believe it? He knows more about the Bible than me. So you don't really love him. You're in love with his spirituality and what it's going to mean for you. And then you're going to get married and realize that he is not always Mr. Spiritual. And he actually knows probably less about the Bible than you thought. But your attraction and what you thought was love was fake love. And I see God so good. He lets us do this. He lets you come to the place where you think you married the wrong person, because we somehow think that there's a right person. Now, of course, have wisdom when you're dating. I raise my girls, I tell them, do not ever go out on a date with a guy that does not tithe. Because listen, if you're going to trust your entire life to somebody, and are you going to do it to somebody that doesn't even trust God with what is considered least in the world? I will not endorse that. We're really just in love with ourselves. And when we're dating and we're attracted, they seem to fit our kingdom quite well. And this relationship will be great as long as they continue to meet my kingdom needs and desires. As long as Angela looks beautiful, as long as she connects with me on an emotional level, as long as she does these things I fell in love with in dating, things are going to be great. But the problem is things go wrong because she's also her own kingdom that was expecting things from me. And things go wrong then in a relationship, but when both kingdoms stop serving each other's desires and kingdom needs and start demanding their own kingdom needs and desires. And welcome to conflict. See, sin is just selfish, as I've already said. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 5. It says, "For Christ's love compels us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he who died for all, that those who live," look at why Jesus died, "should no longer live for who?" What's the problem with sin? What is the depth and the evil of sin? I know we look at all the fruits of it, where there's torment, there's war and murder and killing and all these things. But what is all of that really about? Love of self. Serving the kingdom of the almighty me. Jesus died to free you from yourself. You do not take the throne. You are not the king. You are not Yahweh. You are not created to be, and it's dangerous being there. So Jesus came and died so we would no longer live for yourself anymore, but rather live for him who died for them and was raised again. See, sin turns us in on ourselves. It makes us shrink our little lives to our little me kingdom. Sin causes us to limit our focus, motivation, and concern to the size of our own wants, needs, and feelings. Sin causes all of us to be overly self-aware and overly self-important. And because we're overly self-important, we are offended by every little thing. And we're concerned only for what concerns us. Sin causes us to dream selfish dreams and to plan self-oriented plans. The kingdom of I. We're going to get married and we're going to do this. The kingdom of I. Because of sin, we really do love ourselves and we have amazing plans for our life. See, God graced us and brought us to a place where our kingdoms were destroyed. We hit a point in our marriage, which really wasn't one, where I was serving my kingdom and she wasn't meeting my kingdom needs. I obviously wasn't meeting her kingdom needs. And so we both went other ways to seek from what or who would meet our kingdom needs. For some people, it's pornography, drugs, work, labor. Sometimes it's other women or men. Why? Because we, as sovereign little gods, must have my needs met. And if you don't meet it, Mr. Spouse or Mrs. Spouse, I'm going to find it from someone who will. What we actually want from our spouse because of sin is for them to love us as much as we love ourselves. So we work to get our spouse into a submission to the plans and purposes of the Almighty me. What we do is we dehumanize people and we dehumanize our spouse. Our relationships are transformed. Look how wicked this is. Sin causes us to transform our relationships, and especially our spouse, into two different things. They're either a vehicle or an obstacle. Either they are a vehicle by which they will deliver to me what I need, or they're an obstacle in the way of what I need. And when they don't oblige and deliver to me what I need, then comes resentment, irritation, impatience, and ultimately anger. You're angry at your spouse. And just think, if you're honest, over the last few months, the times that you have been angry with your spouse, what you'll recognize and notice is that your anger to your spouse wasn't even because they violated one of God's commands or ways. It was because they violated your way. They violated your kingdom. They violated your sovereign self. And then you say, this isn't who I married. We're always living for some kingdom and some worship. Sin and selfishness makes it about me. And conflict necessarily arises because each spouse demands service for their own kingdom needs and demands. And what marriages really suffer from is a lack of real love. Many have built their lives and they remain married today because they've learned how to cohabit with another kingdom. They haven't allowed themselves to get to the end of themselves. And if that's you, there is really good news. If that is you in your marriages, you're two different kingdoms, and it's good news because I'm pretty sure you're tired of it. I'm pretty sure you're sick of it. You hate it. And that's exactly where God wants you to be. To come to the end of yourself, trying to fix your spouse, because one thing you will never do is change your spouse. That God has not given you that power or authority. That is not your place. You can't even change yourself except His work in you and through your spouse. God wants you to come to the end of yourself so that you'll be able to depend on Him and place your hope and faith in Him and His grace, where He can begin to change you. What is real love? What does it mean to really love your spouse? For many, it's simply an affection or a feeling. But the Bible describes love as something far greater. that love in Scripture is actually defined as an event. An event. 1 John 4, 7, 11. He says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. And everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. And this is how God showed his love among us. He sent activity. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another." And then he says here in 1 John 4:16, "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us." The answer to our selfishness and our sin is the love of God. Because what true love is, real love is willing self-sacrifice for the good of another that does not require reciprocation or that the person being loved is deserving. And what John also reveals to us is that your love for your spouse is an accurate barometer of your love for God. See, the problem was never that I didn't love Angela enough. It was always that I didn't love God enough. John says, "For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen." It wasn't that I didn't love her enough. I didn't love God enough. My love for God is revealed in my love for my wife, my husband, my friend. It's willing self-sacrifice for the good of another. But Josh, they don't deserve it. I know it's love. I'm not going to get anything in return. Did you know if I do the dishes, she still won't have sex with me tonight? See, a lot of the good things we do isn't even out of love, it's out of self-love. We're hoping to get something in return. If I do this for you, are you going to stretch my back, or are you going to do this for me? And the gospel's calling us to a far greater life, a deeper one, where our love for our spouse isn't just a feeling, an attraction, but is a commitment that I'm going to love you, Angela. I'm going to willingly self-sacrifice myself for your good. And you do not have to repay me for it. And you don't have to be deserving. It's real love. And if you're like me, that sounds like an overwhelming task. Many of us don't even know what that kind of love is. We've never experienced that before, other than in the gospel. Most of the love within the world comes with strings attached and fine print. I will do this for you, and I expect something in return. Or we only do good for those that we deem are deserving. And every time we do that, we live that way, we violate the gospel. We reveal that we don't understand it. Every time when your spouse comes to confess something to you of what you did that hurt them, what do? Your inner lawyer rises up to defend yourself, doesn't it? Why? What are you afraid of? You're a sinner. You should be like, yeah, that probably did. We're so afraid of looking bad. Why? We're so afraid of confessing our sins. Why? It's because we don't believe the gospel. The gospel says, I know what you are. Here is what you are, a sinner. Now don't run from me, run to me, because I died for that sin. And I want to clothe you and cleanse you. And so then God sends your wife to you to tell you, man, you have not been loving me really well lately. What do you mean? I've been doing it. Shut up. Let her talk. She's a vessel of God's glory to change you. And wife, when your husband is coming to you about something you did, shut up and listen. Shut your inner lawyer up, because God is using your spouse not just to make you happy, but to change you. And you will never be changed if you're always defensive. And it's only when you think you are holier than thou and righteous and perfect and he and she is the sinner. You are. And God wants to change you. This kind of love is overwhelming, and there's only one way we can do it. There's only one way we can live this way and share this love with our spouses. And that's through having gratitude for God's love. We believe and we rely on God's love for us. We must remember and celebrate his love for me. See, because it's when I am tired, and I know she's tired too. We got 3 kids. It's like it's a season, I'll tell you. And we're tired. And it would be so easy for us just to coast. You know what? I'm not going to invest in her as much. We're too tired. I'm exhausted. But I know that in 10 years from now, I'm going to be reaping the harvest of me coasting right now. And so what love is requiring me to do is actually do the dishes for her, relieve her of pressure, relieve her of duty, help her in some way. I'm exhausted, and she tires me out with her conversations. I'm just kidding. But you know how it is? Like, I'm just kidding. I love her conversations. But guess what, Josh? Shut up. It's not your kingdom. It's not her kingdom. We aren't serving each other's kingdom. We came together and we are serving his kingdom. We made a decision after everything that blew up and came together. We would never make a life decision outside of what God said. We will not think about what's best for us financially. We will not think about what's best for us for our kids. We will not make decisions based on what is best for our comfort and happiness. We will not make that decision. We will only follow him, because we trust in him. And because of that, even though we haven't got it all figured out, our marriage has flourished. Why? Because we don't have kingdoms in that house. There is one kingdom in that house, and it's the kingdom of God. And so I don't need to get angry at her when she violates me. Because guess what? I violate her. I can have grace towards her. She can show grace towards me. But what I must continually do is it's 1,000 moments of every day, not just once a Sunday. I must remember and celebrate God's love for me. Now I can go do the dishes. Now I can change the diaper. Wait, it's poop, never mind. When I remember and celebrate his love, his patience, his grace, his forgiveness to me, I am overjoyed and full of power to forgive her and give her that same grace and that same love that God has lavished me with. Amen. If I can end with this, what does this look like practically? Love is being willing to have your life complicated by the needs and struggles of your spouse without impatience or anger. Love is actively fighting the temptation to be critical and judgmental towards your spouse while looking for ways to encourage and praise. Love is the daily commitment to resist the needless moments of conflict that come from pointing out and responding to minor offenses. Let them go. Love is being lovingly honest and humbly approachable in times of misunderstanding, and being more committed to unity and love than you are to winning, accusing, or being right. Love is a daily commitment to admit your sin, admit your weakness and your failure to God and your spouse. I had to do that recently. I was praying and we were reading or doing something and I thought, oh my gosh, babe, I have used manipulation against you as a tool to get what I want. I am so sorry. How dare I treat you as an object or a vehicle rather than a person I'm to serve? I was trying to get you to serve me. Just me being open and honest. Love means being willing when confronted by your spouse to examine your heart rather than rising to your defense or shifting the focus. Love is a daily commitment to grow in love so that the love you offer to your spouse is increasingly selfless, mature, and patient. Love is being unwilling to do what is wrong when you have been wronged, but to look for concrete and specific ways to overcome evil with good. Love is being a good student of your spouse, looking for his or her physical, emotional, and spiritual needs so that in some way you can remove the burden, support him or her as he or she carries it, or encourage them along the way. Love is always being willing to ask for forgiveness and always being committed to grant forgiveness when it is requested. Love is speaking kindly and gently, even in moments of disagreement. Refusing to attack your spouse's character or assault his or her intelligence. And I have a ton more, but I'm going to end with the last two. You can get all of them on my notes that are on the digital worship program. You can access all of them. But love is refusing to be self-focused or demanding, but instead looking for specific ways to serve, support, and encourage, even when you are busy or tired. Love is daily admitting to yourself and your spouse and God that you are not able to love this way without God's protecting, providing, forgiving, rescuing grace. I'm going to have Angela come up and she's going to pray for us. And these same principles apply to our relationships with the body of Christ. You know, it was not too long ago, and I was having a tough day, and it was probably, I think it was work-related, church-related, probably, most likely, yeah. And I was praying to God about it. And really what it was I was trying really hard to be God. Yeah, we do that. Try to control. And I was discouraged because I wasn't God. And the Holy Spirit so gently nudged me and spoke to me. This was a while ago. And he said, why are you focused on something I haven't called you to do? I didn't call you to build my church. Oh, that's right. You said, I will build my church. But he said, I did call you to love your wife. Learn what that means. See, we get our priorities mixed up, especially as guys, like work, leisure. There's one person in this world that matters. That's your husband or wife. First, priority. And let me help you out, because it's a microcosm of the gospel. If you get that right, and you learn how to love your wife, you learn how to love your spouse the way God intended, everything else will function properly. There are so many dysfunctional lives because it's dysfunction at the top between a husband and wife, or if you're single, your relationship with God and people.
My selfishness is what got me into a cycle, and my guilt and my shame is what kept me there. And so as I was praying through this series today and just asking God what he wants to do, I really felt just led by the Holy Spirit to pray for those who are going through this selfish cycle where you want to get out of something and you just can't, and you've tried and it's just not working out. Whether it's, I don't want to drink anymore, but I don't know how to stop, or I don't want to watch porn anymore, but now I'm just so into my shame and my guilt. Or whether it's a relationship where you're like, we've been stuck here for years and there's no going forward. There is hope for you today, and that's because Jesus died on the cross for you, for me. He did it for us. He will do it for you. He wants to do it for you. He wants to bring you freedom into your life. And so I would like to ask, with every head bowed and eyes closed, if you would just be willing, be vulnerable for a minute. And as I would like to pray for those who are cycling in silence, if you would just raise your hand for me, and I would just love to pray for you. Now remember, I just came up here and I shared something extremely vulnerable. I want you to be comfortable asking God right now for your freedom. So Father, I just thank you so much, Lord Jesus. Thank you, God. Thank you for that hand. Thank you. Thank you. Father, I thank you so much for your children, your sons and your daughters, Lord, that sit here before you today, Lord, asking for freedom, begging for freedom, Lord, from whatever it is that they are going through, for whatever it is they are dealing with, Father. You know their heart. You hear their cries, Lord Jesus. And I thank you so much that right now you are touching them with your freedom, Father. Be free in Jesus' name. Be free in Jesus' name. He is with you always, and he has never left you. Lord, may you bring peace to them, strength to them, Lord. May you bring people that they can connect with, that they feel comfortable with, to walk them through this tough and difficult season. Thank you, God, for your love and your grace that is never ending. We worship you, God, with all that we have. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. He's so good and his grace is so powerful.